Hello everyone, and welcome to Linux Forensics here at Pen Tester Academy. In this video, we're going to continue to look at some of the malware that was left on our PAS2 subject system, and in particular, we're going to have a look at what sort of functions were imported into this, etc. So in the last video, we used strings in order to examine some of these memory dumps, and before we go on to another utility, I just wanted to remind you real quickly of some of the things that we found using volatility. So let's look at some of the procedure maps for our file. So here's one for the Xingxi bind shell process, and you can see that it has a couple of memory spaces, and in the heap it is using libc, which we already knew, ld, and that's pretty much it. Nothing terribly interesting here, but let's have a look at the same thing for our drop bear process. Now, in this case, we see some references to SSL-v3, which again will tell us a little bit about this process. We already know that it's an SSH server, but if we didn't know that, this would help us figure out what's going on with this guy. So now I want to look at another utility called nm. Now, nm will allow you to see the different symbols in a file if they have not been removed, if they've not been stripped. So we said previously that the Xingxi Quan rootkit files are not stripped, so this should allow us to see what sort of symbols are inside of the file. And the syntax is very easy. It's just nm, and then the name of the file. We'll start with bind shell. We'll pipe this to more. And here we see a bunch of different symbols. Once again, we see all of these imported functions, except bind, etc. And we see some other symbols, such as bind port, bind shell password, daemonize, etc. So you can see if you've got an unstripped binary, you can get lots of great information. Now, even if the binary's been stripped, you should be able to get the information on any functions that it imports, but you won't be able to get variable names, function names, which can often be very insightful. Some more things that have been imported, a couple more. If you're not familiar with this particular function, it's used to translate IP addresses back and forth between various forms of representation. We see a listen function being imported. Some more standard calls to things like malloc, popen, putchar, read, etc. We also see some more variables being set up, such as the root shell password. So you can see, once again, we have yet to look at any kind of decompiled code or source code, and we are still able to figure out quite a bit about this file. We can see all of the functions that it imports, and thankfully, because it's not stripped, we can also see function and variable names. Now, if you weren't sure what the different prefixes mean for nm, you could always do a man on nm, and you will see the different values. So, for example, D indicates a symbol in a data section. U is another common one. It means the symbol is undefined, which is the same thing as saying it's not defined in this file, it's defined somewhere else, i.e. a shared library. We also see text or code section symbols, function names, etc. And you can go through this man page yourself and get a little bit of additional information. Looking through the reverse shell binary, we see very similar stuff. Notice that there are two functions here, validate IP4 octet and one called write PID to file. So the last one tells you that there is probably a file somewhere that has the PID of the process running this reverse shell. Now, from our earlier investigations, in this case, we've already seen this file. It's located in the temp directory. If we look at the root shell, we don't see anything terribly exciting or insightful. Well, that's all for this video. As always, if you're enjoying these videos here at Pen Tester Academy, please tell a friend. We'll see you soon.